everybody, welcome back to the Fumble Live. Thank you for tuning in again. All right, you guys, we are getting into the Nets and whether they are running out of time to build chemistry. We're also talking about Taysom Hill and something that he had to say about the New Orleans Saints and, sorry guys, I'm having a rough morning. If you might be able to tell throughout the show, it might carry on throughout this hour-long live segment, but today it's been a little bit of a rough day. But yes, we're talking about Taysom Hill and something he said about the New Orleans Saints' new quarterback era. But before we dive into the news, make sure you subscribe to our channel, tap the bell for notifications, give this video a thumbs up, and leave a comment below. Here's the Fumble Squad. I'm Devin Howard. You can find me on Instagram as @DevinHoward.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jackie Ray. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter @JRayTheFanatic.
So, Jackie, how was your 420 yesterday? Any updates for us?
I would tell you it's so good that I had to giggle when we got on here because I'm looking at everyone in the chat say happy hump day, and I swear to God, I thought it was Thursday. So it was that good.
I love that. Well, I'm really...
I was like, damn, I got to do my evergreen as soon as we get off of here. And then I saw happy hump day. I was like, oh, okay, I got some time.
Yeah, you got some time. That's so funny. Well, I'm glad that you were able to enjoy it.
Yes.
I had tacos. I told you guys I don't partake in the 420 festivities, but I did enjoy some tacos for Taco Tuesday, and I had a veggie burger last night, which was delicious. But you guys, before we dive into the news, we obviously need to address the major moment that happened yesterday. So a jury found ex-police officer Derek Chauvin guilty on all counts, which was second and third degree murder, as well as second degree manslaughter for his role in the murder of George Floyd. Now, I think this is a really important and historical moment here because we have seen so many not guilty verdicts come through in cases like this. And even though it's not the justice that I think people deserve, I do think that there's a small sliver of hope, or at least there's some sort of accountability that's happening here. And I think that that's really important to recognize. And a lot of NBA teams and athletes took to their social media accounts yesterday to comment on the outcome of the trial. Adam Silver and Michelle Roberts released a joint statement that says, quote, George Floyd's murder was a flashpoint for how we look at race and justice in our country, and we are pleased that justice appears have been served, but we also recognize that there is much work to be done. And the NBA and the NBPA, together with our newly formed Social Justice Coalition, will redouble our efforts to advocate for meaningful change in the areas of criminal justice and policing. LeBron James tweeted accountability. Bradley Beal tweeted guilty AF. Jamal Crawford tweeted, accountability, rest in peace, George Floyd, and, quote, but the fact that we all saw what we saw last year and still were nervous about if he would be held accountable shows how far we have to go, which I think is a huge point to be made. Andrew Wiggins tweeted justice, and Robert Covington said justice has been served, but this is only the beginning. And it really is only the beginning. But I do think that this is... it is, I think, a moment worth celebrating for George Floyd's family because all we want is to see Derek Chauvin behind bars after what he did. Jackie, what are your thoughts about everything that happened yesterday?
So I understand the happiness and the joy and the feeling that justice was served, but it was not. Because, again, we still didn't get justice for Eric Garner. We still have Daunte Wright that was killed just in the same city. And we still are on edge. We don't know what's going to happen with the Ahmaud Arbery case. We still have countless black men and women who were murdered and will never see justice for that. And I just have been cautioning everybody to not get too excited because I do believe the way that things were handled in this specific case has laid the way for a legitimate appeal. And I don't even... I don't know how that would go on an appeal, but the fact that the jury wasn't sequestered, especially when Daunte Wright got murdered, puts in all the backlash. And, Maxine Waters, I saw somebody in the chat saying Maxine Waters, messed things up. Actually, no, she didn't. She was actually 100% right. But because the jury wasn't sequestered and they can hear that kind of information, I feel like his defense has a perfect segue to say, oh, it was impossible for him to get a fair trial. So, and then what does that look like? Because I do, especially the tweets that I saw from Caucasian America, it was one of those, okay, great, they convicted him, now we can forget about everything, which leads me to the understanding that this is not justice. This is a moment in time that people can feel good about, and then we'll go back to business as usual tomorrow. And it's unfortunate because as Black people, I think we know that, but as white America can take this big breath and go, okay, so we can move on now. Let's forget it. We're going to talk about that, later today. But this is not, especially if he doesn't spend the rest of his life in prison, this is not justice. So I am not going to get as excited as I see a lot of people get until he's in jail for the rest of his life and he's exhausted all of his appeals. And then if the Ahmaud Arbery case goes as it's supposed to, and those people spend the rest of their lives in jail, and the woman that killed Daunte Wright spends the rest of her life in jail, then I'll say we're making a step in the right direction. But this was an appeasement. This was to appease the public. That's all it was. It wasn't justice. So we'll see.
Right. I think I've seen a lot of people echo similar sentiments about how this, it isn't the justice that the Black community deserves. I think that it's a step in the right direction, but there's still so much work that needs to be done. There's still so much progress that needs to be made. And until we see these kinds of verdicts for all of the other criminals who have killed and hurt Black people, it's just, there's no way that we can sit back and rest and forget and think that things are all better now. There's still just a lot of room for improvement here. I'm glad to know that he was found guilty on all counts. I think that is what we wanted to hear. It shouldn't have taken the jury so long to deliberate. I know that these things take time, but with the video evidence that we had, I wish things had even moved quicker than they did. To me, it's just so obvious what should happen here. So I do like what Adam Silver and Michelle Roberts had to say, and this is obviously something that a lot of NBA athletes were very invested in since it happened, and they've all been very outspoken about it, so it felt right to mention this at the top of the show. But we are still sending so much love and so many prayers and thoughts to George Floyd's family and friends, and that's all I have to say on that. I want to move on to our first Need to Know News story and lighten things up a little bit here. Let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets. Maybe this is not light news for some of you Nets fans who are in the chat. I don't know, you guys, but people are wondering if the Nets are running out of time to build chemistry. So their big three have only suited up in, I think, 7 games thus far, and now people are also growing concerned about KD's durability. James Harden is now out indefinitely with an injury. On paper, these guys look great. These 3 guys coming together and playing the game, it's an unstoppable force. This is the super team of all super teams, and even in games when we do see them play without all 3 of them on the court at the same time, they are still killer. But they never play with each other, which could affect how they're able to gel and work well together in the postseason when they actually do want all 3 of their superstars suited up and on the court. So, Jackie, let's talk about this. Do you think it's going to backfire when playoffs come and these guys really have not taken the time that they needed to build that chemistry and get used to playing with one another?
So this is why I had such a huge issue with them not all playing against the 76ers, because what have we been talking about this whole time? The 76ers are the come-up team, and they've come up all the way to leading the Nets right now. So this is the thing. If you're going to sit out games, you need to know how you look against your direct competition. You need to know how you are going to play against the team that could knock you out of the playoffs. You need to know that. And the only way you're going to know that is not by practice. It's not by watching game tape on the other team. It's about playing against them. And you had an opportunity to play against them as a unit, and you didn't. So this is how you can become undone, because you don't have... Sitting in a room and watching tape on the other team does not show you how you are going to feel in that moment, how you're going to do on transitions in that game. And yes, you need that time. This is one of those things where the individuality of each person is fantastic. And that's just that's a fact. I'm not going to take anything away from Kyrie, KD, or James Harden. They are all phenomenal players in their own right. But we have seen time and time again that you need to, the reason why LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and the Heat worked is because they had amazing, and Chris Bosh, because they had amazing chemistry. They enjoyed spending time together on and off the court. And I just don't even know if they're doing that. I don't know if KD and Kyrie and James Harden are even hanging out off the court. I don't know, because we just don't evidence of that. So you need, and even if you are, that's great to build that chemistry. But how are you going to do against Joel Embiid when he gets on a three? That man's big as hell, and when he gets on his 3-point streak, what are you going to do that on that? How are you going to defend that? I don't know how you figure out who you are against a team like that if you don't play against a team like that. I just don't know how. I don't know how you reconcile that. So I don't know if I'm ready to say that this is something they should truly be worried about, because you can't, again, you're just going to have to rely on the individual greatness of each person and hope that they can get it together. But I still remember in the All-Star game, there was that moment where they didn't know, Kyrie and James Harden didn't know who was going to play point guard. Because they just didn't know. And that's one of those things. If your default is point guard and my default is point guard, but we haven't been in the game, like there's that moment in time where you lose seconds. And when you're talking about playing a juggernaut, those seconds can mean a lot. They can mean a lot to the outcome of the game. So this is a tough one for me. I'm not ready to write the Nets off yet. I'm just not, because I think, again, the individual greatness of each of those men is fantastic. And so I couldn't in my right mind write them off. But I do have to give credit to the people who have this concern, because it is a legitimate concern.
Yeah, and I think that I see some of you guys in the chat saying, like, why are you guys hating? The Nets have nothing to worry about. We're not hating. I mean, when I look at what some people are saying about the Nets and how they're so afraid that, it's just going to turn out to be this big disaster, this big failure, I don't see that. The Nets are still the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. They are still killing it. They're only, Jackie and I looked this up before the show, they're only 1 game behind the Sixers. So it's not like they're completely floundering and just getting demolished on the court. But I do think it's important to acknowledge that when you do have these 3 big superstars who all have very distinct styles of play, who all do like to be in the limelight, it's important to make sure that they are able to work together and to kind of build that chemistry and that energy that you really need. Jackie, there are a lot of people who say that when you do have talent as big as KD, James Harden, and Kyrie, that chemistry doesn't necessarily matter. So what would be your response to that?
I think Doug S. in the chat nailed it. He says things change when you face adversity. They've yet to get there. If they're down 1 or 2 games or something, the lack of chemistry could come out. That is 100% true. Because I think that when you're on a game-by-game basis, you can have these sparks of greatness. One of you can have a standout game. But what I have seen, and this isn't just with the Nets, I've seen even Kevin has said they won't have a problem scoring. That's a problem to me, though, if that's their only focus, because I've seen that a lot with them at times. Their concern is scoring. The defense has suffered. So, and I think you need both, obviously, to win a championship. You need your scoring prowess, and you need to be defensively solid. So I think Doug nailed it. When you are down and all of a sudden it's time to rally the troops, but you don't even have any chemistry, and then you have a situation like the Clippers had where Paul George is in there like, come on, guys, let's do it. And they're looking at you like, boy, stop. I don't even like you like that. Now you have an issue. So it's one of those things that I think that is a legitimate statement, because you don't know who you are until it's time to know who you are. And that's for all of us. Until you really hit adversity, you don't know who you are. And you haven't even played together against the big teams in the regular season. So now all of a sudden you expect to go into a high stress 7-game situation that and then you're down. Now if they go in there and they sweep somebody, okay, cool. Let's do that. Let's stick to whatever works. But I think Doug is right. If they go in there and they're down 1 or 2 games, especially if they get beat back to back, getting beat back to back, that hits your ego. And we were talking about the ego of 3 people. That now we need to know how you guys look in that situation. And the only way I think you figure that out is when you built that that's what the regular season is for. The regular season is for working out those kinks. So when you get to the playoffs, you know what works and what doesn't. Right now, that's the concern. I don't think they really know what works and what doesn't. It's impossible for them to know that. They just haven't played together long enough. So I think Doug nailed that one on the head. It's going to be interesting to see if they do go down, how they bounce back from that.
Yeah, I think it's funny that people are getting so mad at us for even like questioning this when all we're saying is get the three guys out there at the same time. Like it's not, I don't know, people are getting so sensitive about it, but
people are weird because the thing is though, and okay, y'all feelings hurt now. They're about to get real hurt. If what we saying bothers you, you don't understand basketball. Period. Because at the end of the day, it is a team sport and you build camaraderie as a team, which means you have to play together as a team. Nobody said, I've said a dozen times in this conversation that I think the individual talent of James Harden, KD, and Kyrie is flawless. It's beautiful talent, immense talent. It's a fantastic thing. And we all love seeing them play together when we see them play together. And the fact of the matter is they don't know who they are as a team. They do not know who they are as a team. It's impossible for them to know that because if those of you who have played basketball, you know things are great and hunky-dory in practice. But it's not a game. I hate to quote Allen Iverson here. We're talking about practice, not a game, practice. And what you do in practice does not necessarily mean that's what it's going to look like in the game. And if you guys don't understand that and you think that we're hating, I don't know, maybe check your feelings out the door and come back. We'll see you in a minute.
Yeah. There are a lot of feelings in the chat today. It feels like it's Feelings Friday, but no, we are only on Wednesday this week, you guys. People are really upset. You know what? I don't think there's any problem with us saying that you need to get all three guys out there. I think that building chemistry, regardless of how much talent you have, is important. We believe in the Nets. We can look at the Nets and see what they've been able to accomplish so far this season. We recognize that they are a huge threat. But that doesn't mean there's no room for improvement. There's room for improvement for every team at this stage in the season. So y'all can just relax. It's not that serious. Let's move on. Let's get off this topic because people are upset. Let's talk about Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. So Drew Brees retired last season from the New Orleans Saints, and they're going to be bringing in a new era at the quarterback position. And this offseason, we'll see whether or not the starting job is going to go to Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston. But Taysom doesn't think that there's going to be any issues between him and Jameis when Saints training camp starts, and he's just focused on becoming the very best version of himself. He said, quote, I think historically as a competitor and as a player, the competition really becomes with yourself. It's not between you and one other player. You're trying to be as good as you possibly can that day and every day. Be as consistent as you can as an athlete and as someone who has been in a lot of competitions. The mindset is always the same. So I appreciate this mindset. I think that this is a great perspective to have. I just wonder, do I really believe it? Or is there really no competition? Is nobody going to have hurt feelings when they're not selected for the starting position? I'm sure both of them really, really want to be that starting quarterback and have that, lead role for the Saints instead of taking a back seat. So are either of them really going to be able to sit back and be okay with the decision if they are not selected for the starting role? So this is a great professional PC answer. I love to hear it. I hope he truly feels this way. But do we believe this, Jackie? What do you think?
I believe he believes it. And it's easy to believe something like that when Sean Payton got a man crush on you. So, and that, Sean Payton has said time and time again that Taysom is his guy. And which is interesting because we as Saints fans, the fact that it was a weird time for us because even though we knew and we could tell that it was time for Drew Brees to retire, deep down inside, there's not a Saints fan that really wanted that to happen because he has defined that franchise for 15 years. You know what I mean? So it's like it was a tough moment in time. But I think also real Saints fans still remember that moment when Drew Brees was on the sideline and he wasn't standing next to Taysom Hill. He was standing next to Jameis Winston. And he told him, this is your team. And the reason why that means a lot to me is because of what we saw with Teddy Bridgewater and how Teddy Bridgewater wasn't that great when he came to New Orleans. But we saw that Drew Brees is not the kind of guy that holds his jewels to himself. He's very much the guy that wants these young guys to succeed, and he kind of took Teddy Bridgewater under his wing, and then all of a sudden, when Drew got hurt, Teddy Bridgewater went out there and he did the damn thing, and everybody's like, oh, because I thought we were just going to lose. But, he came out there and he did his thing. And I think that is more to Drew Brees' credit. Of course, you got to give the coaching staff, the quarterback coach, their credit as well. But it's a different level of respect when, this icon in the football world and the icon, the face of the franchise, takes you under their wings and you pay a little bit more attention. So I think that's why he excelled the way that he did. But I also think that Jameis, whatever Drew Brees saw in Jameis, that's what I want to see at the starting position. I have said time and time again, I have zero faith in Taysom Hill as a quarterback. I think Taysom Hill is an amazing football player. Do not think he is a starting quarterback. I have said that time and time again. I have not seen his mindset work he does what he does well. He did complete some passes, but so did Jameis Winston. So this is what you say when you know that there is a battle. This is the answer you say when you know there is a battle, because we see people always forget, people say 30 for 30. He threw 33 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, and had the most passing yards in the league at that time. I think he had the most close to the most touchdowns. So, or up there. So he's not a bad quarterback. So there's a thing called coaching. And I think you can coach him out of being that gunslinger and just throwing the ball willy-nilly, especially because a lot of some of those 30 interceptions weren't his fault. Some of those were just, either tip balls or, receivers not putting in that extra effort. But a lot of them were his fault. And it was because he was throwing in high-pressure situations, number one, or he was trying to force things. You can coach that out of him. So I've seen that with the right coaching and with a guy like Drew Brees in your ear coaching you up, that Jameis can be good. I haven't seen Taysom show that he, again, and I don't want to say that because I do think he's going to be I've said time and time again, I think he should be a tight end, and I think he should be a tight end. I'm not backing down from that. And I think he would be probably the best tight end we had on our team. I would love to be wrong about him if we decide to go, because whatever the Saints decide to go with, I'm a rock, because I know y'all gonna fall back to, the whole scandal with Sean Payton. I low-key love Sean Payton. He is one of my favorite coaches in the NFL. He's always been that. So whatever he decides, I'm a rock with it. Personally, though, Jameis Winston is my quarterback.
Do you think, this is the last question I'll ask you, Jackie, do you think that it's possible Taysom Hill kind of knows this already, and so this is his attempt to save face and try and act like he's not concerned with the starting position and really is just trying to be the best he can be? Is this his way of kind of getting ahead of the story?
Yeah, I think this is his way of saying, because what'll happen is once he's named as the starter, he'll come out and he'll say, Jameis is great. We both played really hard at our position, and this is what the coaches feel is best for the team, and I'm just going to embrace it, and I'm going to go out there and do the best I can. He's going to constantly make it like he's not in competition with Jameis. But I also think that's Saints culture, that, that is who they are as a team. We are a team, period. We ride together, bad boys for life out here. We riding together. So that's very much the culture out there, and it's a beautiful thing. So we'll see the same kind of comment from Jameis if he doesn't get the starting spot. He'll say, Taysom is great at what he does. I love him. I'm going to be there to support him as best I can. If they need me, I'm going to step up and do it. And he's going to seem like he's fine with the situation because that's the culture in New Orleans. So I'm not mad at this, but I do believe when Sean Payton has the kind of open man crush that he has on Taysom Hill, you don't have any kind of worries. You the guy. And unless Sean Payton sees something, and it would have to really change his mind. He would have to say, okay, you're still my guy, but this is our quarterback. And he would have to see something completely different than whatever he sees in Taysom, which I still don't know what it is. But he would have to see something completely different that makes him change his mind. But I can tell you, as far as reps, come the preseason, Taysom's going to get more reps because he's going to want to make sure that he's ready. He's going to get more reps than Jameis. I can almost guarantee it.
Well, Jeremiah Smith says when Winston airs his new season of 30 for 30, I'm going to get on your ass for saying this, Jackie. So I guess Stay Mad's going to remember.
And guess what? I'm gonna replay everything I just said, where I said I think that Taysom is going to start because what Sean Payton said. So when you play it, play the whole thing. Don't do that Fox News journalism and just play one part of the clip, my guy.
Yeah. All right, Jackie. Well, let's wrap up Need to Know News. What's happening in the post up?
All right, so we're going to start off with obviously what we were talking about earlier and the guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin and the Raiders. Now I'm going to talk about this more in what we're not going to do, but the Raiders swing and a miss at the mark because they posted something on their Twitter that I'm going to tell you what this statement means later in what we're not going to do. But it's a bad look, even if you don't know what it means. So take a look at this tweet because Bradley Beal had a problem with it, as he should. So this is what the Las Vegas Raiders posted on their Twitter immediately following the guilty verdict. They said, "I can breathe for 2021." I can't even. This is like what you see right now is me not giving you my alter ego right now. But Bradley Beal is absolutely right. They need their asses whipped for that because that makes no sense at all. LeBron saw it and he tweeted about it as well. I think we have a tweet from him where he was like, "This is real. Nah, man, this ain't it. The F." That is a correct statement. So this whole thing was ridiculous. I'm gonna get to this more and what we're not gonna do. But for those of you who might not make it, I want to show you this one tweet right here because basically the owner says, "Well, his brother said it, so that's why I'm saying it," because his brother said this in the speech that he gave after the conviction. I want y'all to take a good look at the owner of the Raiders. That what this man looks like should tell you everything you need to know, because while this statement was said, this is taken completely out of context and it means something entirely different. And I believe this man knows what it means. And we'll talk about that later and what we're not going to do. But the problem with that is these other tweets. Let me show you a couple other tweets, what people were saying with this, because this is just convoluted. So, and I'm going to talk about this more in what we're not going to do, but white America loved this tweet. And that's the part that infuriated me. When you go through this, it's all these black people like, "What? Take this down, take this down." And here come white America that says, "I don't understand what the big deal is." It's a literal quote from George Floyd's brother from today's press conference after the conviction. It's meant to stand with the family, and he wasn't the first to say it. Watch the press conference, and you'll see the words were his brother's. Sir. No, sir. If you're not going to do the whole quote, that's not right. And that's what this person said. He says, "Except Floyd can't really breathe. He's dead. It doesn't matter what his brother said. The reality is very different. Heck, a 15-year-old girl got shot 4 times during all this. So I can breathe is nowhere close to being black people's reality." That's facts. And the willful ignorance in this whole thing is just absurd to me. And I can tell you right now, I'll check it again in a minute. But at 8:59, this was still on their page. So we'll see in a minute. I'm definitely going to check before we get to what we're not going to do. But this is gross to me. Devin, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I want to add that Mark Davis said that he wasn't going to take it down. I don't know if you mentioned that and I just missed it, but he said that he had no intention of taking it down and that he was going to leave it up there. When I first saw this tweet, I thought that it was like the Raiders saying, "A weight's been lifted. We can, breathe," or whatever it is. Like, not that we can breathe, but then, upon like thinking about it a little bit more and talking with our producer about it, if he was trying to quote the brother, quote him directly with credit. And I think that here it just almost like, so those final words of George Floyd's, the same words that we have heard repeated over and over and over again in the video where he's actually being murdered, but then also during all of these protests, that has been so impactful. I think that those words, like just the very human thing of breathing, to know that he wasn't able to, it's painful to think about that. And that's been such a standout phrase during all of this, all of the protests, all of, everything that's been happening. So I think that Raider Nation just really missed the mark or not Raider Nation, but the Raiders missed the mark in kind of taking those words and twisting them to have this, what they thought was like an optimistic message. It is bizarre. It was a bad move. It was tone deaf and tasteless, considering what just happened and what the Floyd family went through.
Yeah, and I'm gonna drag him a little bit more when we get to what we're not gonna do. But let's move on to KD right now, because this one, I love KD, I do, and this is part of the. I told Devin before the show, staying healthy is an art form. It really does mean you have to put in extra work off the court, and sometimes I think KD puts too much time on social media. So I'm not entirely sure he's doing all that he can off the court to make sure that he stays a little bit healthy, because this is what I'm talking about. So take a look at this tweet that this user posted, and this is hilarious because he posted this tweet that says Kevin Durant was better than Steph Curry both years. Everybody knows it, bro. Don't try and kid yourself. This MFer Curry needed another MVP and 3 All-Stars to get the job done. Trash. He basically said Steph Curry was trash, and there you go. You see it right there. KD liked it. KD liked the tweet. So, first of all, the question was, is this real? I can tell you for a fact that this is a real moment in time. KD liked the tweet. Let that sink in, because it's for sure real. So let me show you this next tweet, because of course people reacted to this. And this person says he liked it on accident. Chill, but that doesn't change the fact that he was lurking on a tweet. Now, okay, look, so he's right. Okay, this is definitely real. And how do we know it's real? Because he unliked it, and the person who originally posted it let us know that, and he's crying about it. He said he unliked. So, and he goes, "Oh, bro, relax. He's going to switch to his burner account and probably re-like it." So now the question becomes, is that user correct? Was this an accidental like, or did he forget that he wasn't on his burner account and that's why he had to unlike it? Devin, what is your verdict?
He forgot. Wasn't on his burner account. That's obviously what happened here. I mean, KD would never knowingly go and like that tweet that, you know, kind of trashes his former teammate. Not trashes him, but he wouldn't do that from his own personal account. He certainly thought he was on his burner account. I just think it's funny because literally, was it earlier this week or last week, KD named the top 5 players that he's ever played with, and Steph was like number 2 or something like that. Right. So he obviously has a lot of respect for his teammate, or he's just trying to make it seem like he has a lot of respect for his teammate, so there's no, or his former teammate, so there's no drama. But this is just ridiculous. KD, get off Twitter, seriously. KD can clap back at all the TV hosts and personalities and reporters that he wants. That's great. I love that. People on Twitter, no, just stop. You make mistakes too often.
Right, way too often. And here's a fun fact, KD. If you was out there doing some strength and training, you wouldn't be on Twitter, make these mistakes. I'm just throwing it out there. You do with that information what you want, because this is hilarious. And look, KD was on Twitter for that. He's on Twitter for this next one, because this is hilarious to me. Because yesterday before we got on the show, our producer Arthi was like, okay, we got to get on 15 minutes early because I have to tell you this story time. So it's all about this girl who apparently went missing. Somebody said she had gone missing, and then, you know, people were looking for her, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, she's found. Come to find out, by looking at her pictures, it's very obvious that this woman is a catfish. So guess who wanted to know, like, who got catfished by this person? KD. And guess who picked up the story? The Jump on ESPN. Take a look at this tweet. There's a lot to unpack on this tweet. First of all, let's talk about it. So The Jump today says Kevin Durant, O'Shea Jackson, and Lakers Twitter are looking for answers after a Lakers podcaster, Vivian Flores, is accused of catfishing. And you can tell, first of all, we talked about this first picture, you can tell that's catfishing. Don't nobody walk around with a full-on ring, like the ring light's not even on her phone. Maybe she could have one of those ring lights on the phone, but that, girl, you didn't come to a whole lighting system in the third, that's a top section. No, you did not. So there's a lot to unpack here. KD wants answers. I also found it interesting that this comes from Robert Little or whatever, because, you know, he's from Black Sports Online, and there was a whole surviving Black Sports Online. So it's good to see that organization is still around, because, you know, and that ESPN is picking it up like that. But this is hilarious to me that this became a story on ESPN. That that KD wants to know who this catfish is, how this dude got catfished by her. But it's crazy to me. So Twitter, the fans of the Jump, though, I thought it was hilarious, and I was here for it, and I enjoyed it. But people who watched the Jump did not appreciate this moment in time at all, and they made sure to let them know about it on Twitter. So I have a user right here. He says, y'all can't find anything else to talk about. How about the Milwaukee versus Phoenix game, Dame's injury, how the standings are, and the scenarios? First take is better than the Jump. This next user says something similar, like it must be a slow news day or something like that. So I have one more tweet that says the same thing. It said, bros, y'all really ran out of content, huh? There's 30 teams in the league. Y'all really can't find anything else to talk about. I'm going to jump to ESPN's defense, which I never do. But when you have all these sports talk shows, y'all can't all cover the same thing. You do have to find something else that everybody else isn't talking about. Could they have done better? For sure. But I understand why you need to be different than all the other sportscasts on that network. But still, Devin, ESPN talking about this. How we feel about it?
You know what I think is funny is that when our producer Arthi told us about this before the show yesterday, we were thinking like, oh, we should do this as a video because it's like kind of funny. But then I was like, no, it's just like Lakers drama. It's just, such a small community of people. And then here we are and ESPN is talking about it. We should have been the ones to do the story. We should have done it.
Because Arthi was actually in that whole thing. She could have given us insight that ESPN just didn't have. And I can't even say they scooped us because clearly from what their users were saying, nobody wanted to hear about this. But the fact that KD made time, again, KD, you got other things to do, sir. That's all I got to say.
True.
It's hilarious to me. But let's go on to this next one because this next one kind of got to me. Because Anthony Edwards is one of my favorite people. Y'all know that. I think the man has a heart of absolute gold. He is. Oh, we're doing. My bad. I skipped one. So let me go back to that one. Yes. So the trademarks. We talked about this yesterday with Vanessa Bryant wanting to part ways from Nike because Nike just wasn't for the people, and it was just too hard for us to get the shoes that we wanted from one of our favorite icons. So she's parted ways with them. But now a whole bunch of trademarks have been filed. So I want you guys to take a look at this tweet and just see, so Kobe Bryant LLC has filed trademarks for footwear and apparel. So let me show you this Mamba, the one with the Mamba picture on it, because it kind of details a little bit more about what they're doing. So it says Mamba trademark registration is intended to cover the categories of clothing, namely shirts, tops, skirts, pants, shorts, bottoms, socks, blah, 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 all this stuff. Mask and gloves, you see that as well, and then footwear. So that's a big deal because we know that they just parted ways with Nike. So the fact that it's going to cover footwear as well. But look at all the trademarks. Her family, if it's related to the Bryant family, they are covered because Play Gigi's Way is covered. Baby Mamba, Mambacita, Lady Mamba, Little Mambas. Of course, Kobe Bryant's name. Everything Mamba and Gigi related and Kobe Bryant related has now been trademarked, which smart because if somebody else would have done it if she hadn't done it. So that's very, very smart. But I think this obviously means she's going in another direction from Nike. What I ultimately would like to see, and Nick Hamilton talked about this on our podcast yesterday, is maybe she gets a distribution deal. Like she can make her own shoes, her own Kobe shoes, but then has a distribution deal with Nike. Because I think that would make it bigger. But with Kobe, maybe you don't need that. So, Devin, do you think that she's definitely moving towards building her own shoe brand? Well, building Kobe's own shoe brand outside of Nike?
I mean, I think so. Yeah, it does seem like all of those trademarks, it's hard to say that she isn't planning something. I just wonder if she is going to tie it to another major shoe brand who maybe gives her more flexibility to choose the quantities or whatever it is so that she can make it more accessible to fans. But I think it's pretty obvious that she has big plans to continue using Kobe's name and the different variations of the word Mamba in order to provide fans with the gear and the, clothing and shoes that they want.
Yeah, I just hope I forget the brand that Steph's shoe is under because his shoe looks terrible. So whatever shoe company that is, don't go there because they clearly have no idea what they're doing. That shoe is awful. So choose wisely, Vanessa. That's all I'm saying. But now let's get to what I was talking about with Anthony Edwards, because again, like I said, he is definitely one of my favorite human beings. He has a heart of gold, and I love this quote in this interview he did with GQ. There's a phrase in it he uses that I was like, oh no, maybe no one will notice. They notice, and we'll get into that. But let's take a look at this this interview that he did. So he basically said that he asked him, like, you don't watch game highlights or verify with that with your own eyes. He goes, nah, I ain't watched none. Nah, I don't. I know he date J-Lo. And then the guy goes, no, he does not. And he goes, what? He goes, they broke up. He goes, damn. And he goes, you look disappointed. He goes, I am, because he's my owner and I want him to be happy. And he said, do you think he'll be happier with J-Lo? And he goes, yeah. So I love that he's thinking, of Alex Rodriguez, who is the new owner of the Timberwolves. So I love that he's thinking about him. But I was like, oh no, please don't see it. Please don't see it. I don't know why I thought Black Twitter wouldn't see it, because of course they saw the fact that he used the word my owner. I think I threw some tweets in there from that. And look, he gonna be my owner. It's like, oh no. And then they just kept coming. Black Twitter was all over my guy. He said, media folks clearly want to hear stuff like this and make it news. But what's wrong with Edwards? He gonna be my owner? Really? How hard is it to rather say he's gonna be one of the owners of the franchise I play for? I knew they were gonna come for him the second I read that. And I was like, maybe they won't. Maybe they won't, because they know he's a good guy. But nah, Black Twitter was all over him for that. We know what he meant. Y'all give the kid a break, okay? He's 19. Now, Black Twitter, you have educated him, but let's give him a break. He knows better now. Okay, y'all leave my boy Anthony Edwards alone. But speaking of shoe deals, these are some shoes that I actually love. Now, I'm not a sneakerhead. You guys know that. I don't have any major brand name sneakers in my home. I have some Skechers. I love me some Skechers. Y'all do with that what you want. But these shoes and my LeBron James shoes that I'm about to get, they're going to be in my closet for sure, because I love the new Zion shoes, and I love how he talks about this moment in time and what it means to him and his family and the work they put in just to make sure he could get to this level. It's a beautiful moment to see, but then again, I love Zion, so take a look.
Where, look at my mom, look at my brother, my older brother, look at my stepfather. Especially my stepfather. I just kind of go to him, my mom, and just say thank you. Like, all those countless hours in the gym, all those dreams, all the wins, all the losses, the crazy journey, moving a lot. They saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And I'm forever grateful for that. I'm thankful for that. Like I said, at any point, maybe I could have been in a different situation where maybe I wasn't playing basketball, or maybe I would have gave up on it, but they stuck with me, and I'm forever grateful for that.
Thank you, Z. So beautiful. I mean, I'm sure that's every parent's desire to one day hear their kid, look at the success that they've had in their life and look back and say, if it wasn't for my parents, I wouldn't have done it. And to hear him say that he stuck with it because they wanted him to, and they saw something in him that he didn't see in himself. That is so beautiful to me. I absolutely love it. And I want to show you some of his shoes too. I think, look at these shoes. This is the first look at the Jordan Zion 1, the first signature shoe for Zion Williamson. They will debut on the court tonight in Brooklyn. I love this because it has the Z. So let me show you the one that I'm going to order, because I'm getting this. This is going to be my next shoe, y'all. I love this shoe. I don't know why. Like I said, I'm not a sneakerhead. Could be because it's a Zion shoe, and y'all know how I feel about Zion, but I love this shoe. I'm definitely getting it. Devin, what do you think? I don't know if you're a sneakerhead at all, but these definitely look better than the Steph Curry shoes.
Yeah. Oh, well, everything looks better than the Steph Curry shoes.
Right.
That's not even a good comparison. But I'm not a sneakerhead either. I don't like rush out and buy new sneakers. I'm definitely like a heels girl. So, but you guys probably knew that I'm such a girly girl. But I do like these a lot. I think that these actually look really cool, and I would for sure wear a pair of these. They seem like something that even a girly girl would wear. So I am down for that. I think they look really great. I'm super proud of Zion. I have been rooting for Zion for so long. We both have. We love him. And I love that he always has so much humility and modesty, and he's such he's just grateful to play the game. And I feel like we don't see that with a lot of young players because they get kind of cocky, and that's also fun to see. It's cool to see them get a little bit cocky and feel good about themselves, but Zion always is so humble, and I just love that about him.
Yeah, Gary Turbo for the win in the chat, though. He said, is the shoes going to be strong? Okay, Gary, I see you because we do remember that exploding shoe. I see you, Gary, for the win. I love that. Petty, but I love it. So let's move on to this next one. Speaking of petty, because I got to give you a little bit of backstory on this one because this is hilarious to me. So, first thing I saw was this video, and it kind of confused me. So I just want to give you a little bit backstory on it because Salvador Perez had to pay up his Super Bowl bet that he lost to Brett Phillips, which was, Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl. So that meant he had to wear the the Tom Brady 12. And take a look at how he reacts to having to wear that jersey. Take a look.
Patrick Mahomes, the best.
I know that right. That's right. Even while he's wearing that jersey, he's like, I'm still going to represent for my boy. And Patrick Mahomes is the best. I don't care if he lost that Super Bowl or not. I don't agree with that. But there he is. He had to pay up that bet. Shouts out to him for paying up this bet, though, because I've made similar bets with people, and they're just like, no, I'm not wearing that. I'm not paying that bet. So shouts out to Salvador for paying this bet. But Tom Brady saw that video where he was wearing, his number, and he said, no, Patrick Mahomes is the best. And Tom Brady commented on it, and he said, nah, I think actions always speak louder than words. Okay, that's a jab. That's a definite jab. But Patrick Mahomes was like, oh, this what we doing? We jabbing at each other now? I got you. Because he says, I guess we will see in 20 years. Oh, I don't know, maybe it was just me. When I saw that, I was like, oh. But I love the back and forth. But is this the right time to say this? You just lost to the man. Devin, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not the best moment. Timing could have been a little bit better there, but I kind of like the back and forth. I love a little bit of like snippiness on Twitter, and I like the back and forth, but not the right time.
Not the right time at all. But let me dive into this next one because this one, I've said it before, I've said it again. Jameis Winston is my quarterback. And it's moments like this that just make me love him and just his work ethic and not caring that Dak is standing on the sideline. Take a look.
I went from being the #1 draft pick to being everybody laugh at me. But guess what? I'm about that business. I'm outworking everybody at my position. I know Dak right here, right? But I'm doing things every single day. Commit to the dream.
Yeah, and I believe that because for those of us who are part of Who Dat Nation, he definitely was under the tutelage of Drew Brees. And Drew Brees, first one in, last one out. And I'm sure Jameis had a good work ethic before, but I know that leveled up because he was, working so closely with Drew Brees. So I 100% believe him. I know y'all like to hate on this man. And this next user, he's kind of hating on him too, but I appreciate what he's saying because he said, I feel bad for him because as a Bucs fan, we savored his arrival in 2015, but by 2019, we were so ready for him to go and just move on without a second thought. I wish him the best in his future success. And that's the part that I think people need to understand. What happened with him in Tampa Bay does not necessarily mean that's going to be who he is here too and forevermore as a quarterback. And I love how he owned it. He says, you know what? I was a first round draft pick and then people started laughing at me, but I don't care. I'm still going to go out here and I'm going to put in that work. And I love that attitude for him. And that's probably why I'm rooting for him because the man doesn't have a quit bone in him. It's not who he is. And he's going to go out there and he's going to do the best that he can all the time. And he's going to try to level up. And I love that about him. So he's my quarterback. I don't care what y'all say. So that's all I got for the post up. So let's get into this, what we not going to do, because as promised, we are going to revisit this Raiders Nation putting this really ridiculous statement on their Twitter. So like I said, the only thing that they did do, now when they originally put this on their Twitter, it was pinned, because I got this last night, right after the verdict was read. My friend tagged me in it, and I was like, what in the hell is this? And I was so mad. And it was pinned to their tweet, so it's at the top of their Twitter, so no matter what they put after, that was going to be at the top. They've since unpinned it, so it has dropped down a little bit. But as Devin said earlier, the owner says Mark Davis says he's not going to take it off of the page. That is a problem for me, and there's a lot of reasons why that's a problem. Number one, the number of black people that were on the Twitter saying, this ain't it, take it down, take it down, take it down, versus the number of, white people who were like, no, this is great, it's beautiful, keep it up, never take it down, never take this. To me, the way it played out on Twitter looked like, it sounded to me like when white folks say, well, why can't we say the N-word if black people say the N-word? How do you continue a pattern that the people who are directly affected by that tell you, no, this ain't it. There's reasons why this ain't it. Don't do this. And you say, oh, screw you and your whole feelings and all the things that you've gone through and probably will go through next week. Like that one user said earlier, a 15-year-old girl was shot and killed hours after this happened. Now they said she had a knife, which she did, but at the time when she was shot, they pulled up on her and they jumped out of the car and shot her. There was no interaction. There was no attempt to get this 15-year-old girl to put down the knife. It was just bam, 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 shot her 4 times. That's excessive. These are the kind of things that happen to us. So when you post something like this and we tell you this ain't it, guess what? That ain't it. So then, of course, there's a reporter, a black man, who was talking to him about it, and he posted this tweet, which is kind of what Devin said about him saying, I'm not going to take it down. So it said, Raiders owner Mark Davis said the I can breathe wording came from George Floyd's brother, who said today, we are able to breathe again. That's not what your damn tweet said. Your tweet did not say that. He said, we are able to breathe again. Why didn't you post that on your Twitter? Why didn't you post that on your Twitter? And here's the thing, for those of us who know, and if you don't know, then you just don't know. But when Eric Garner was killed, this is what the counter protesters, the Blue Lives Matter people, wore on their shirts. While we were out there marching and LeBron James and everybody else was wearing I can't breathe because those were Eric Garner's last words before he was choked out by racist cops, counter protesters, racist people were wearing I can breathe in order to counter protest the life of Eric Garner being taken. That's crazy to me. So here's where I really get pissed off. This black reporter told him that. Now take a look at this tweet, because this is where I lost it. He said, Davis said he wasn't aware that NYPD supporters wore I Can Breathe shirts following the 2014 killing of Eric Garner. After I brought that up to him, he said, I learned something. I have to do a little bit more research into this just so I can speak coherently on that aspect. Bruh. So when I tell you what this means and how black people are perceiving it, you say, oh, I learned something and move on, and you still leave the damn tweet up there? Explain this to me. Explain how you can find this new revelation where you know that racist people who thought Eric Garner, who was trying to help a situation, deserved to die and wore this shirt. Then you say, oh, I learned something today. And you leave that damn tweet up there. You didn't even quote the brother right. Let's also not forget what this looks like, because your boy, your little quarterback, when we was protesting this George Floyd situation, he wore this. Let's not forget this little moment in time where he decided to wear this jacket, this bulletproof vest, and say, it's that time again. Let's not forget about that. So now you're taking a racist wording, and then you got this seemingly racist quarterback. Now, whether or not I believe that is another story, but this is what we got right now. And when we tell you, take it down, you go, no, I like it. I'm going to keep it up there. So again, when you look at this thread, the number of people who are not black, who are co-signing on this, is unnerving. So let me throw a couple of tweets up here from that, because I'm getting mad just thinking about this. So I think I threw some extra tweets in there. If I didn't, let me just let you know. One of them basically said exactly what I just said. And And it's not just one of them. It was tons upon tons upon tons of non-Black people saying, well, his brother said it, and we can just move on. That was the narrative throughout all these tweets. It said, basically, we can just move on. No, we can't. You can. If you are not Black, you can look at this verdict and this guilty verdict and say, okay, now we can move on. Okay, so this is, this is what this guy said. He said, Mr. Davis, please don't delete this. To me and most of America, it means George Floyd got justice. No, he didn't. Yes, it doesn't bring him back, but now maybe the whole country can move on. Again, you can move on. We cannot move on, because for us, it doesn't change the fact that when I'm driving down the street and get pulled over for a traffic stop, all of a sudden my life flashes before me and I got to put my phone on record. So if something happens to me on a normal traffic stop, people can go march for me. Come on, man. This is ridiculous. This makes no sense. The fact that so many people who weren't Black had this obtuse, well, we can just move on now. As if Dante Wright didn't happen. As if we're going to ever get justice for Breonna Taylor. As if it goes on and on and on. And the fact that this man said, I don't care. I'm going to post it. And because now that we've educated you on what it means and you still leave it up there, you've just showed your whole racist behind, sir. And I hope the Raiders go 0-16. I hope somehow you go bankrupt. And I hope the Raiders just go away into some bleak existence, or it gets so bad that you can't own them anymore and we finally get some Black ownership in the league. But I wish your whole demise. I just want you to know that. And that's all I got for what we not going to do. Devin, do you have any thoughts on this?
I just think that it's frustrating to see white people, because I know I represent white people. I'm a white person. So it's frustrating to me to see white people continue to defend things that the Black community and Black people have said is offensive. Like I admitted at the top of the show, when I first saw that tweet, I was like, oh, sigh of relief. I have never thought, okay, we can move on. Things are better now. There's no more issues. I never thought that. I want to clarify that. But when I first saw the tweet, I was like, okay, they're just trying to emphasize that, that maybe that door has closed, just that we know that Derek is going to be serving time in prison. But then after talking about it and reading about it and learning more about it and understanding why it is offensive and why it's frustrating for Black people, I would never stand by and continue to defend that tweet. I would never do hashtag I can breathe 42021. Like, when people are telling you that something is offensive or something is blatantly incorrect or, trivializes the matter at hand, listen. And that's what's really frustrating about this for me, is that it's just like people are constantly trying to defend the stupid decisions that they make. And that's what makes white people so frustrating. That's why white people just have such a bad reputation. I mean, for real. Like, so I just feel I can't understand this. I think that he's making the absolute wrong decision in keeping that tweet up there. The only benefit that I can see in having that tweet continue to live on their page is that it shows how stupid the franchise is. So, you know what? For that, keep it up there, because then people can see that you're just completely ignorant and completely idiotic. And that's all I have to say on that.
Yep, me too.
All right, you guys, so let's wrap up the show for the day. We're going to be back again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time as usual. Tap that bell so you know when we go live, when we upload a new video. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, leave a comment below, share this video with your friends, and tune in tomorrow at 9 a.m. We'll see you guys there. We can't wait to see what you're mad at us for tomorrow, because it's going to be something. Bye, everybody.